Hello and welcome to the Z-List Deadlist podcast. I'm Izzy Lawrence and I'm a bit tired. If that's all right to tell you. I think that it's all right to tell you. I've been spending the beginning part of this year and the back end of 2018 doing this radio show for BBC Radio 4, which you can download and listen to. It is called Making History. That's right, it's a podcast too. You can listen to it on BBC Sounds. And I present it alongside a man called Tom Holland from Off Your Bookshelves. And we've been focusing this season, I suppose, this series, there we go. It's been all about lines, so different lines, like the Mediterranean line. That's not a thing. The meridian. It's been a day. The meridian, the prime meridian, the Optimus Prime meridian. No, the prime meridian, and we did one on bloodlines. And this one today, we were recording one on power lines. And zap, 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 electricity, all funky, danger, high voltage. Those power lines. It's a good episode. It will be available 3:30 on Tuesday, live on Radio 4 and afterwards on BBC Sounds. But the point is, one part of the story of the electrification, and we're looking at fibre optic cables, and we mentioned very briefly that the first transatlantic cable didn't really work very well. And there's a story behind that, which we didn't even get to record. So it's not even on the cutting room floor. It is on the presenter's lips. So I figured I'm going to tell you guys about it, because nobody will mind. It will be good. It'll be good times. So, yeah, the first cable. Well, I mean, we have to think that this is only about 10 years after Morse code was a thing. So Morse code is that thing, the sound your text message makes. So it goes boop, 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 boop. That's S, boop, boop. And then M, boop, boop, boop. And then S, boop, boop. And if you do it boop, like that, it's B and O. Dot and dashes. It's communicating with dot and dashes down a wire by tapping it and giving a little electrical pulse down a copper wire. Now, this is a big deal because basically it means you can communicate with people who are on miles away, just miles away. Morse, right, when he first did it, he I can't remember the quote exactly. It's like, what hath God wrought? I think was his message that he boop boop out, which is just it should have been "Come on, Lewis." We know that, but it's the most amazing thing, because if you think about it, two ends of a wire are basically the same place. So you're just shrinking the planet all of a sudden. Because obviously they'd had written letters and telegrams, but that still takes time. This is instant OMFG, literally, which would be boop. It doesn't matter. It reminds me a little of that episode that we did about Sequoia. I don't know if you remember. That was a good one. It had Andy Riley doing it. So because Sequoia was a Cherokee, and in order to fight the white man, what he decided to do was he saw that they wrote in letters and they got to communicate very quickly by writing, and he also saw that all of their writing basically made their laws real, really, and legal and proper. And he thought, if I can do that for the Cherokee, if we can have a written language, we can fight them on their own terms and we'll get them. Right, or at least we'll protect ourselves, peace out, or whatever. But the point is, he doesn't know how to read or write, and he just made up an entire language himself, which is incredible, right? So he got the Cherokee language and made all the characters, and then worked out how to make this work, which is just an absolute nightmare when you think about it. And then he taught to his daughter, so she could read it, he could read it, fantastic. Then he had to convince everybody else. So he got a load of tribal elders into his tent, right? And he sent his daughter away so she couldn't hear. And he said, okay, guys, give me a sentence to write. And they were like, whoa. And they said a sentence, and he wrote it down, like, bananas are blue. Right, okay, bananas are blue, there we go. And then she came back in, and he gave her the bit of paper, and she read it out, and it says, bananas are blue. And they nearly tried him as a witch. They got proper freaked out by it. They were like, this is black magic. It is wrong. And if writing is magic, this is literally being able to instantaneously send a message from one miles away to other miles away. It's amazing. You're shrinking space. You're warping space around the front of the ship to jump through it. That's Star Trek. Doesn't matter. Point is, the first transatlantic cable is only about 10 years later. It's 1861. Now, by this time, there's about 18,000 kilometres of cable on the planet that's already been laid down. Okay, and about 5,000 kilometres of those cables work, because cables are it's difficult anyway to make them good. Get good pure quality copper is hard. A lot of them are just shoddy and don't work. Getting the rubber is hard. All of that, they're expensive. But the ones in the air on telegraph cables work fine. They're like, okay, it kind of works. It's good. But then they go under the water, and that's when it gets dodgy, right? They don't use rubber. They use a thing called, I think it's called butter percher, something like gutta percha. That's it, right? Which is like a rubber. It comes from a tree, and it works really nicely in salt water, hardens it, makes it really solid. And so they've got that, and then they've got a layer of iron just to keep it thing, and then they've got the copper wire going through, which is pretty standard, pretty good. The trouble is, and they test it on the land. It works beautifully on land. It's perfect on land. In the water, though, it mucks up, and that's because water is an electrical conductor. They should have known that, surely. Surely they should have known. That is why you must never toast things in the bath. So, this interferes, right? Because you've got to imagine that boop, 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 boop. What that is, it's a charge. It's a little voltage being sent down the cable to the other end, right? And they receive it at the other end. They go, oh, I see. That's a thing. That's a dot or a dash. So, the trouble is that fades. That's as you go further, it degrades as you go further down the wire. So a long wire, crossing the Atlantic, that's going to fade quite a lot. So it's going to be start off going boop boop and end up going boop boop. Right, even less. It's like a butterfly farting. It's like a tiny little thing. So it's really hard. And this is before they have screens and stuff. So it's like measuring it. This little bit of voltage has physically got to move something in order for them to be able to detect it in order to translate. So they've got that little problem. And then they've got the problem of the background noise, because they're basically in a massive washing machine, right, called the Atlantic Ocean. It's worse than a washing machine. And it is just basically churning out all the noise. It's yelling. It's going, I'm a whale. Right? It's doing all the things. And so you've basically got the of background noise where you've got to hear the of a butterfly fart in order to be able to get a word in. So when they lay this cable, right, and this is 1861, right, they lay the cable between Newfoundland and Ireland. And they actually get the Queen, right, the Queen, Victoria, that's the one that was played by Sandy Toksvig. We are not amused. That one. So she sends a message to President Buchanan, and everybody, it's brilliant. So it's out. News is out. This is an amazing thing. News is out. This is incredible. It's worked. It took a day to send that message. At best, if there's like a really calm sea and everything's working nicely and there isn't much whatever, they can do about a word a minute on it. It is rubbish. Okay, you're not going to send very many messages. And it just so happens that at the time there was two scientist kind of guys who are writing papers contradicting each other, and one is our hero, who's the idiot, right? He's a doctor, so not an engineer, not like the other one, right? But his name, and literally, I'm not making this up, was Edward Orange Wildman Whitman. His name was Edward Orange Wildman Whitehouse. There is a Wildman, there's an orange Wildman in the White House. Oh my God, he predicted Trump. Anyway, so he's amazing. Wildman Whitehouse, we will call him, right? The other guy, okay, and he's this will be easy, because he thought that, okay, the signal's going to degrade, but it's only going to degrade by the length of the cable. That's it. So he's lay the cable times degradation, boom, there you go. You got your doodah, it'll be absolutely fine. It'll be easy. It'll be fine, right? And he's been telling off this other guy who's been writing articles, going, actually, I think you'll find it will go up squared, so the degradation will get worse by the length of the wire squared. And he's a boring man's name. He was called William Thompson. I mean, what sort of rubbish name? Who wants to be called William Thompson? If you are called William Thompson, you and about 5 million other people. I mean, anyway, He was 10 years younger, and he was an engineer, and he kind of knew his stuff. But that didn't stop Wildman, because this is a time of Victorian entrepreneurs. So when they laid this cable, this telecoms company, they were just like, oh, let's just do it, man. They're like Dragon's Den, all the money. Debbie, that's literally the only one I can think of. Is there one called John? He's called something like John Lewis. I can't remember his name. I think that was, and there's a couple of others, and there was a lady one, and there's a lady designing the architecture. It doesn't matter about the dragons, is he? Ignore the dragons. Deborah, we can remember Deborah. Excellent. Anyway, she just went, here, I'll give you all the money, but I want minus 1% of the business, because there's loads of investors going, if we get this is this is so much, this is going to change the world. So they were very interested. So they basically let this loudmouth, this man with these massive trousers, Wildman Whitehouse, they said, can you solve the problem? Can you make it work better? And he went, yeah, of course I can make it work better. It's easy. If, right, and this is his logic, if because basically the signal sending through is about 70 volts, and the background noise is about 100 volts. So he said, all we have to do is just get over the background noise. Just make it a bit louder. And so he set up his equipment to make it louder. And this was at the same time that William Thompson was also conducting his experiments. But we'll just make it louder if they can't hear us. It's such a British reaction as well, isn't it? It's that thing of going, what, you don't understand me? Very well, I will speak clearly and louder. Where is the swimming pool? Thank you. Where can I buy a postcard? That sort of level of... Anyway, so what he did was he took it from 70 volts up to 2,000 volts and tried to send his message. And he melted the wire. It blew a hole in it somewhere, and it just basically turned into useless junk, which it was, to be fair, already pretty useless junk. Anyway, everybody after that hated him. Because what William had been working on was this galvanometer. I don't know, guys. Seriously, it's late at night now. I'm tired. But what that is because physically, like I said, you have to get this tiny little butterfly fart noise coming through the wire, not even noise, just the charge coming through, and you have to get that to do something to a bit of equipment, to physically move it in order for you, the Victorian, to be able to see something happening, because you don't have screens. It's like one of those seismic graphs, the needle that moves across looking for earthquakes. It's like that. You physically have to have something moving for you to be able to tell what's happening. So he just basically got this tiny little, it's almost like this iron filing that would just block a light somehow. And so the shadows would let you know if it was a dot or a dash. It was so nerdy and so boring and just oh, well done you, aren't you clever? Anyway, he was made to be very clever and very wealthy. Wildman got the sack, Wildman Whitehouse, and he's in obscurity, hence he's on the Z-list, dead list. But by the time they laid another Atlantic cable, it was laid with William Thompson in charge, and after that they made him Lord Kelvin, of course, which is a much better name. Kelvin, not Calvin, unfortunately. But it's pretty cool, very sciencey name. And he got to basically keep the boat that he helped lay the cable with, and got to conduct loads of sexy experiments, and then went on to do great things. But we don't care about him, no. We care about a man called Edward Orange Wildman Whitehouse. Come on! Beautiful, isn't it? Utterly beautiful. So that is what I've been up to. Oh man, it's been crazy recording this radio show. It's been really fun. I really recommend you listen to it. If you could just let the BBC know how much you love it, because then I can make more. Otherwise, they'll just go, no more of that idiot. Send her back to her podcasting ways, which I'm fine with, to be honest. You can download all the episodes to Making History. Find it on the BBC website. And also, thank you very much for listening to this one. Please do spread the love for the Z-list, dead list. I have a question to ask you guys, though. Could you, and this is a bit random, but I think I've got an idea for an extra little history podcasty thing. Because what's happened is I've written a kid's book, and it's a historical fiction book. And it got me into thinking about historical fiction and how society's changed through children's literature and stuff. And I want to know, what is your favourite children's classic book? Because I'd love to have a look at it from like its own cultural perspective, because we kind of see things and go, well, that's really backward in 101 Dalmatians, the way that lady dog just goes, I want to look after my babies the entire time. It's rather even pathetic. But compared to the time that happened, is that actually, Anyway, I thought it might make an interesting thing. So if you could let me know, what's your favourite classic children's like novel and stuff, fiction? Like, could be Peter Pan, maybe. Maybe it is Swallows and Amazons, which is just a porn name, isn't it? Anyway, guys, it is late. I've been up all day talking history, so enjoy making history. It's out on Tuesdays at 3:30 p.m. on BBC Radio 4. And enjoy that. Other than that, find me on Twitter. I'm at ISZI_LAWRENCE. That's Izzy Lawrence. Or just go to izzy.com, ISZI.com, and see what I'm up to. I'm on Instagram as well. You can follow my stories. It's mainly pictures of cats and the weather and Jim and like more cats and what I ate for breakfast. It was porridge. So I will speak to you guys very, very soon. Thank you for this little bonus episode. And Edward Orange, Wildman Whitehouse forever. Apart from I don't want the Orange Wildman in the White House for that long. If the Americans can sort that out, that'd be great. I can hardly talk. We got Brexit in this country. It's nuts. Don't talk about that, Izzy. Just go to bed. Okay.